Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel once before. The last beer I had from these guys I was really impressed with, very solid, one of my favourite styles, actually a West Coast IPA. But for this review we are going to go to a style of beer that I've always enjoyed over the years, but you don't see too many examples of this style on the market actually. So this one kind of piqued my interest when I saw they actually were brewing this style of beer. So for this review then, we are going to head up to the northeast of Scotland, to Peterhead, and we're going to have a look at my second beer from Brew Toon. So this particular beer is called the Jail. It comes in at 5.5% ABV and it is a red ale. So yeah, really curious to see how this beer turns out. I guess the kind of classic red ale that you would find in Scotland, or back in the day for me, would have been the 5am Saint from Brewdog. I really liked that one. Probably my favourite Brewdog beer back in the day, to be honest with you, when I used to session things. Yeah, my local brewery here in Clipmanonshire, Williams Brothers, they've got 3 red beers that I can think of as well. So they've got the Red Act Lager, they've got the Pavlov's Dog, and they've also got the Paradigm Shift Imperial Red IPA actually. When all 3 of those are really quite nice beers, I have to say. So yeah, there's 4 other red ales that I've just kind of pulled off the top of my head, and I'm saying that there's not many of these on the market, but honestly there isn't. There actually isn't too many red ales. There actually aren't too many red ales out there these days. But yeah, really curious to see how Brew Toon do this one. The last beer I had from these guys was the Loose Cannon, their West Coast IPA, and I guess my next reviews from this brewery will have to be like a lager, a New England IPA, and I guess something from the darker side of the spectrum, like a stout or a porter or something like that. But a lot of people had told me these guys were doing some really quite nice beers, and I was impressed with the Loose Cannon. So fingers crossed this one carries on in the same vein as that one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. Definitely nice to have them on the channel once again, and always good to have a different radio to try. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brew Toon before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but quite regularly at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brew Toon then, on to my brewery notes. So Brew Toon, as I've mentioned to you, are based in Peterhead in the northeast of Scotland, and they were founded back in 2017 by Cameron Bowden, or Bowden, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name, but he worked in the oil industry for a number of years, and he also owns a construction company as well. So he was apparently a craft beer enthusiast, and it was this that led him down the route of home brewing. And after working for Acker Solutions for a few years, he got the opportunity to start his own company, and he was assisted by his parents Fred and Shirley, so they are also quite active in the company. But the brewery was founded in May of 2017, and it can be found on Peter Street, and apparently this site was both a brewery and a bakery at one point in time. But the site was renovated and turned into a brewery and bar, which opened in late 2017. Over the years they've increased the capacity and the infrastructure of the brewery, and the bar has continued to grow in popularity, and they've basically been increasing their sales gradually over Scotland in various different places. It's only fairly recently, I think, that they managed to get their beers down into Glasgow and Edinburgh, although probably, I'm saying recently, I've been out of the country for quite a long time of course, but probably within the last 18 months or something like that, that they got their beers, you know, to the likes of Valhalla's Goat, where this one was bought. But as of January 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've produced around 25 different kinds of beer, and they've got a whole host of different styles in there. There's stouts, porters, red ales, West Coasters, New England IPAs, and a whole host of other stuff that they do. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about this brewery. They are, as I say, fairly new in the Scottish craft beer scene. The name, I think, is taken from Brew Toon, which is the name of the Peterhead football team, but I think that is again derived from the fact that this is a sort of fishing town, so they're right on the water basically. So the Brew Toon, you know, basically a reference to the water and the fishing heritage. And these guys use the slogan, "Not your ordinary beer," is it? They say not you, yeah. not your regular ale or something like that. Not your average brew, that's it, not your average brew. But yeah, as I say, a brewery that seemed to have a good reputation, and I hope that at some stage I can get up to Peterhead, and Peterhead I should say, and have a little look at their bar and maybe film a little out and about video. That would be good fun. Maybe I can get an interview with Cameron at some stage as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Brew Toon for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So it tells you a little bit about this beer on the side here. It says HM Peterhead, which is the prison, was Scotland's toughest jail, home to the most notorious inmates, watched daily by wardens of strong character. Like them, this beer is a no-nonsense, heart on its sleeve kind of red ale, unashamedly packed full of character. A strong caramel and biscuit nose with a hoppy, full-strength punch. So yeah, sounds like it will be pretty nice, this one. But as you can see, it's got the typical Brew Toon artwork on the front of it there. You can see that that's also on the bottle cap there, but you can see it is kind of playing into the whole idea of, you know, Brew Toon and Peterhead being a fishing town, the kind of nautical heritage, if you like. But yeah, really quite nicely presented, this one. I do have the stats of this beer that I took from the website in the brewery notes as well. So this one is hopped with Amarillo, Cascade, Atenum, Centennial and Simcoe. Atenum is probably the one hop that we've not heard of here. It's an American hop, 4 to 6% alpha acid, known for its piney peppery notes and the green component of things, and it's also got quite a lemony grapefruit character. I remember back in the day, Brewdog Punk IPA actually had that in it, if I remember rightly. But the other hops we know, Amarillo about 12% alpha acid, American hop, big oily oranges. Cascade, the original Yakima Valley hop, 8% alpha acid, kind of soft, juicy, kind of figgy notes, if you like, and a bit of grapefruit in there. Centennial, yeah, 12-13% alpha acid, and also a nice big kind of lemony character. And then there's also Simcoe in there as well, which is about 12% alpha acid, and then that gives you a kind of big sort of passion fruity thing as well, to be honest. But the malt base in this one is Maris Otter, Amber, caramel, crystal dark, and crystal extra dark, and then Munich malts, and it didn't say what kind of yeast they'd used in this one. But yeah, that is those are your stats of the beer. A pretty impressive malt base in there. I always enjoy a bit of Maris Otter, and you know, the amber caramels I think should be quite interesting as well, and then crystal and Munich always go down a treat too. So quite curious to see how this one turns out. At 5.5%, it is a lower alcohol beer, but these red ales, you know, they can usually still pack a fair punch even though they're lower in alcohol. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Now, 5.5% ABV beer, this one. Let's get it. I'm trying to save the bottle cap because I don't have one that didn't get damaged from Brew Toon, but there we go. Yeah, got it off pretty intact there, that's awesome. That can go with my Broughton Ales one that I got earlier. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. 330ml bottle, this one, and I bought this one at Valhalla's Goat through in Glasgow, along with the Loose Cannon West Coast IPA. So the next time I'm home, as I said, I need to see if I can get a couple more beers from these guys, preferably a stout, a lager, and they've got a few New England IPAs, I think, that I saw in there as well. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. Just check it's in the nice position, and there we go. So, well, I have to say the colour of this beer is absolutely lovely. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up on the camera, again because of my red covered drum kit behind me, but it certainly looks absolutely lovely. If I shine the light through this, this is a lovely kind of, like, it's almost like a kind of candy apple red, or, you know, the Heritage Cherry Gibson SGs. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit, to be honest with you. There's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass on this beer. As it goes up towards the bottom of the head there, you can just see a few little ones. There are a few little bits of sediment kind of floating around in this beer, to be honest with you. But yeah, you can see the beer poured with about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would say kind of fawny coloured head. That's faded away to just be a very, very thin foamy layer, and I'm sure it'll fade away even more. But yeah, one or two big bubbles on the side of the glass there, and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head. But overall, it does look pretty nice, and to be honest, pretty much what you would expect of a red ale. But I would say this is definitely one of the brighter examples of this style that I've come across in terms of its colour. But yeah, not surprised when they call it a red ale. They definitely mean it in this case. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one and just see how we get on. Very curious, as I said. Oh, yeah, that smells quite nice. It's all about the malts in this one, which you'd kind of expect it to be honest with you. So yeah, straight away with this one, you can smell a lovely, smooth, bready backbone to it. That'll be the Munich malts and also the Maris Otter that will be giving you that. The crystal probably will contribute as well. But yeah, lovely sort of mix between wholemeal and smooth white bready character there. It's almost a little bit like a bread crusty thing, and that seems to be forming the base of the beer. You will get one or two little more grainy elements out of it towards the back of the palate, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's got a wee, it does have a wee bit of a kind of grainy brown bready sort of thing to it as well, as I say, which I think is very, very interesting. So yeah, the malty side of this beer is pretty nice actually. So yeah, there is definitely a sweet caramel there in the middle of the palate, in the middle of the nose, sorry, what am I talking about? So you definitely get a wee bit of a kind of sweet caramelly note to it. It's quite toasty, I think, and then it's also got some nice grainy, biscuity qualities. So yeah, I really like how that goes together in this beer for sure. It is quite a bready leaning red ale in my mind, but it's got all that kind of depth of brown sugar in there. I mean, when you've got different crystal malts in there, they're going to give you a good kind of mix to the biscuit. So you can even smell a sort of McVitie's digestive biscuit to it, but you also smell a little bit of a more kind of in-depth grainy character. Some sweet caramel, does have a little bit of a toasty brown sugar to it, and a wee bit of an almost kind of butter candy type thing too, which I think is really quite nice. But yeah, it definitely has a good it definitely has a really nice kind of malty backbone to it. So yeah, brown bread crusts, things like that, a little bit of a white bread, sweet caramel, toasty kind of brown sugary qualities to it, and as I say, I do like how that goes together for sure. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, I think we've covered the malt base as much as we need to, other than to say there's maybe one or two little woody elements in there. But on the hoppy side of things, I think this should be quite interesting. There's a wee touch of earthiness to this one, absolutely. On the green side of things, you do get a little bit of a herbal quality as well, and there is a nice little bit of, there's quite a big floral aromaticity for this one. It does have a wee bit of a spicy kind of note, which I would be guessing comes from the Atenum, to be honest with you. So yeah, it does have a wee bit of a spiciness to the floral aromaticity. Then round at the front of the nose, it does have a bit of a kind of brighter grassiness as well. But all of the hops in this beer are fairly high alpha acid. You know, Cascade and Atenum would be the lower ones. So it's Amarillo, what was it, Simcoe, and what was the other one that's in here? Centennial, right, okay, and Simcoe. So yeah, this one, yeah, it's quite interesting that for sure. But yeah, you can definitely pick out a little bit. You do get quite a bit of a kind of lemony, zesty quality to the beer for sure. You can smell the sort of lighter kind of red fruity figgy notes as well from the Cascade. A bit of the Amarillo's in there, but I think those other two elements I've just mentioned are kind of sitting on top of it, and you get a wee touch of a grapefruit as well, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, the way that the aroma in this beer goes together, I think, is really quite interesting. So yeah, the aroma profile that you get out of this beer, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, quite a grainy smelling red ale, this one. But I think it's got a nice bit of American fruit to it, so yeah. And take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of it before you get stuck in. Orange juice, bit of grapefruit, red kind of, you know, more kind of reddy fruity figgy notes, and a little bit of a kind of lemony zest as well, which I think goes together very, very nicely. So just take a little bit of time and enjoy all these different elements of the red ale that this one has to offer. I think this is a very nice example of a lower alcohol red ale in terms of its aroma. Of course, the imperial ones are going to give you a lot more kind of brown sugar and things because of the boozy malt base, but that's just how we go. And the colour of this beer is fantastic actually. I'm curious to know how they got that, you know, because red ales, it's difficult to get a kind of red colour like that, to be honest with you. You can sort of cheat a little bit and use dyes and things, and remember the colour of your beer is dependent on two things: one, the type of malts that you use; two, the length of the boil, and again it would be three if you have any adjuncts and things. The longer you boil the beer, of course, the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and the darker the colour gets. But yeah, this red, it's a very, very dark amber, but it's got a nice kind of red tint to it. I think that's a fair way to describe the colour right enough. But as I say, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck in, but we are going to taste this one now. So this one is the Jail, 5.5% ABV. Red ale, this one from Brew Toon in Peterhead in the northeast of Scotland. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, Skål, cheers. Yeah, that is pretty nice, I have to say. Thumbs up to Brew Toon on this. It's got a lovely balance between the kind of malty side of thing, so between the kind of bready side of the malt and the sweeter side of the malt, and then you've got all the hops and other things in there too. Just a very well balanced beer, this one, and I mean at 5.5%, which is kind of session strength. You know, that's kind of what you would expect, absolutely. But yeah, I like that one for sure. And when I do make it up to Brew Toon to do my wee out and about video, I will be seeing if they have this one on tap, because I would love to try this on tap and just see how the smoothness comes out there as well, because quite often beers are even smoother when you have them out of the keg or out of the cask, of course. But yeah, this beer I think is very, very nicely done. This is like what 5am Saint used to be. Not anymore, of course, but yeah, well done to Brew Toon for this. Actually, this is very nicely executed, just like the other one was, the Loose Cannon. So yeah, solid brewery, this one. I can see why people are saying they have some really nice beers. So yeah, where to start with this one? It's the crystal malts in this that are, well, I suppose it's the Munich, the crystals, and the Maris Otter that are all playing a role in this, and it's lovely. So straight away in the middle of your palate with this beer, you get a lovely smooth bready quality to it. You can feel the white bread kind of sitting on top with the Munich malts. You can feel the crystal just underneath there, giving you a slightly more homier thing, and you can feel the sort of Maris Otter malts underneath, just giving you that wee slightly kind of grainy edge to it. But all of them, as you progress further into the aftertaste, start to become sweet. So yeah, in the middle of your palate, you do actually have a fairly substantial kind of bready layer to the beer. But yeah, as you move towards the back third of your tongue, on that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, there's a distinctively more kind of grainy quality to the beer. But yeah, on the back third of your palate, it definitely has a little bit more of a kind of thickness to it, if that makes sense. A nice kind of more wholemealy, brown bready kind of quality there, and you start to get notes out of this one, just a more grainy, almost kind of slightly rye type note out of the beer, to be honest with you. There's not rye malts in this, of course, but it does just give you the impression of a little bit of a slightly sweeter rye bread, to be quite honest. So I like how that goes together in this one for sure. But yeah, the kind of bready backbone that this beer has is very, very nice, and it's complemented by the sort of more sweet and sugary side of the beer perfectly. But it's got a lovely smoothness and just a little touch of a graininess on that back third of the palate there. But the whole malt base in this one for me is quite smooth and just a little bit oily and slick, so it gets big thumbs up for me. This is how I like the red ales. I'd love to see them do like the Imperial Jail, you know, that would be an interesting one. Do an Imperial Red in this kind of vein, to be honest with you, because I think that would turn out very, very nicely actually, if they can keep the same level of balance that this one has. But yeah, let's focus on the brown sugary side of things then. So in the middle of your palate, there's definitely a nice little bit of a sweet caramelly note to the beer. So it's kind of a big oily caramel, but as you move further out from that, it kind of lightens up a little bit and becomes a wee bit more it's almost got a few little kind of honey tones to it, to be honest with you. But then as you gradually progress further out towards the edge of your palate, it's got a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah, it absolutely has kind of everything I would want from a red ale. You will maybe get, if you go to the centre of your palate and then move forward, you might get one or two little nutty elements to it, but then there's a few kind of woody, there are a few little woody things. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then diagonally back, you will get one or two little woody elements out of the beer too. So yeah, it's got a few interesting things going on in this one, absolutely. But yeah, the malty, the way that everything in that malt base goes together is just spot on for me. So it gets a big thumbs up from me, absolutely, on the malty side of things, and that's the most important thing to get with a red ale actually. But yeah, I think other than that, there's not too much to kind of say about this beer in terms of its malty notes. It's quite, the bread is so layered, you can get all these different types of bread in it. It's very smooth at the back of the palate, just a little bit of graininess. Then you've got all those kind of brown sugary biscuity notes sitting in the middle of your palate as well. So it's just a beautifully executed beer, this one. I really think this one goes together very, very nicely actually. So yeah, big thumbs up to Brew Toon for this. On the hoppy side of things, so back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, that earthiness does spread forward a wee bit. Then you start to get some more floral aromatic notes out of the beer. The beer does have a fairly wee bit of floral aromaticity to it, but it's not going to blow the head off you, absolutely not. I mean, you can get a little bit of that kind of spicy note that I was saying from Atenum. You can actually get that in this beer for sure. The other hops, they are all capable of producing a good little bit of kind of spiciness and bitterness and things like that, but I don't think they're doing that really in this beer. But I would say around the kind of front edge of your palate, there's definitely a bit of a lighter, kind of almost slightly zesty, grassy quality to it, and I like that as well. But just behind that, on the front third of your palate, you've got that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And again, I think they've pulled this off very, very nicely in this beer. And there's quite a little bit just going on in this one too, which I think is very, very nice. So yeah, on that front third of your palate, then if you go towards the very back, towards that border region, there is a little bit of a kind of brown bready, kind of bread crusty sort of thing there. And as you move further forward, there's a wee, it's like a soft kind of almost plummy, raisiny sort of thing. Then it's figgy. It's the cascade, I think, that's forming the backbone here as you go further forward. But you might get one or two little, you get a sort of kind of sultana type flavour, which I wonder if it's the Simcoe that's kind of giving you that. If it's the Simcoe that's giving you just that little bit of sultana flavour. Simcoe is a very interesting hop to put in different beers because it behaves completely differently. But yeah, as you move further forward from that, you get a little bit of a kind of sultana, dried apricot sort of thing. Then as you move towards the very kind of front, the sort of front half of that front third of your palate, it's distinctly more oily and orangey in the sense it's the Amarillo, I think, that's going to be giving you that. But then as you reach the kind of front tip of the tongue, you get a little bit more of the kind of centennial note coming out of this beer. Those lemony citrusy notes, and the Atenum, as we said earlier, will contribute to that as well. So yeah, it's a really it is a really quite interesting beer in the sense of how this one goes together. I like what's going on with this one. So big thumbs up to Brew Toon for this beer. Absolutely love it. The fruits just have a lovely little bit of oiliness to them as well. It's one of these beers where it all just kind of fits together really nicely. Sometimes you find beers like this that just kind of hit the spot for you, and this one does it for me. As I say, I'd love to see an imperial red of this one with just, you know, even more brown sugar and that big smooth bready base in there. But yeah, this one for me is very, very nicely done. It's got a wee bit of the almost traditional kind of ale note in it, because the beer does, the kind of middle part of your palate gets a little bit grainier the further that you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, big thumbs up from me for this one. So yeah, love it, love how it goes together. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the tasting section of this video. In terms of the mouthfeel, I would definitely say that this is a mid-bodied beer, no doubt in my mind. Yeah, definitely a mid-bodied beer. The carbonation, very, very smooth. Smooth carbonation. It does have a little bit of that kind of cleanliness to it, but again, overall it feels quite smooth just because of how many bready type malts there are in this beer. So yeah, quite a smooth beer with just a little bit of that kind of Scottish clean wetness sitting on top of it. In terms of hoppy bitterness, must be about 30-40 IBUs, something like that. This beer is not going to blow the head off you in terms of its IBUs. Malt base, as I say, lovely smoothness to it. A bit of grainy dryness develops later on, and you've also got just a wee bit of a kind of sweetness to the beer too. But yeah, hoppy bitterness, 30 IBUs or something, and the fruits are kind of nice and juicy and slightly oily as well. But yeah, very nicely executed beer from Brew Toon, I have to say. I think they've done an awesome job of this, and they get a big thumbs up from me for their effort on this one. I think that rounds off the review quite nicely, to be honest with you. So yeah, this one was the Jail 5.5% Red Ale from Brew Toon in Peterhead in the northeast of Scotland. Another lovely beer from these guys, and as I say, I hope that my future reviews, a stout or something dark, a lager beer, and then a New England IPA. Those will have to be the next targets from this brewery. But yeah, nice to get a second review from these guys done and see there's a bit of consistency in there, and I think this was a very, very nicely done beer. So if you like radios, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy this one. But yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brew Toon as well. We will return to these guys the next time I'm home in Scotland, most likely sometime in September. And yeah, we'll see how we go with that. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. The Jail 5.5% radio from Brew Toon in Peterhead, back over in Scotland. Slàinte, Skull, cheers.